Well, hello there. Welcome to ATGLive, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. I'm one of your hosts, Pete Fletcher. I'm here, joined as always by my good friend and counterpart, as C3PO may call him, Nick Milky. I guess it's been 5 years. I still can't figure out where to point on the screen. Nick, how's it going, buddy?
Oh man, coming into a brand new year, 2025. We're going to kick it off with technical difficulties, things not working the way they're supposed to. But you know what?
It's all right.
Like any good scoundrel, like the Millennium Falcon, we're going to hold this thing together with duct tape, baling wire, whatever it is that we need to do. We may do some light speed skipping. I don't know.
We don't know.
But we're going to make the damn thing happen because we're here and it's time for ATGLive. I have been off for several weeks and I am thrilled to be back here in this new year.
Yeah, we took last week off because it was the holidays and we're not heathens and we wanted to spend time with our families and friends. And there were a couple of weeks where you had a couple of things going on, but that's okay. We kept the ball rolling. But the show is we're gonna keep it going. We're gonna keep the show rolling the way we do. Look, it's Eric Elliott. He's been zill-pilled. KG says Happy New Year, y'all. It's a new year, new look, new nothing really too new. I mean, we're gonna do the news. We're gonna have guests, not this week. This week we're gonna talk a little bit about 2024 and what's coming up in 25 with you. And the other big news, Nick, we're bringing the callers back. We're bringing in the opportunity for those of you
back,
hanging out.
baby.
Yes,
we want to hear from you. We're going to put that link in the chat here, probably the middle part of the show. We're going to get through the news this week, certainly as we talk about the news, as we talk about, Star Wars in 2024. We want to throw that link out there. We want to go back old school. Force Connect Fridays, only it's Thursday, and we're connecting with you. We want to be the Star Wars show that connects with the fans, that brings the fan in. You're a part of the conversation. So we're going to start doing that. We're going to start tonight. We're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about 2024. In the weeks going forward, some weeks we're going to have a guest. You may want to comment on what they have to say. You may want to comment on the news.
We may even talk those guys into letting you talk to the guests, depending on who it is.
That's it. That's right. You never know. But you, the guest, you, the fan, you, the viewer, fans just like us, you want to be a part of the conversation, and we want to be the place where that happens. So calls are back. I can't wait for that. We're going to have some fun ejections if calls go long. We're going to get into all that later on, but it's a new year, and I love the excitement and the energy that a new year brings.
Absolutely. And we got all the socials. We're still on Twitter. We don't love being there, but you know what? You guys are all there still. So we're there. But we're also on Blue Sky, as I called it last week with Scott Chernoff, Blue Ski. We're on Threads and Instagram and the TikTok and Facebook. We're on all of them at the SSW Network. You can find us there. And you can also keep up with us at the SSWnetwork.com. We got a whole bunch of new merch coming out. We got a bunch of things on the horizon there. So we just got so much going on. You can also do super chats now, by the way. If you want to get up there, look, we're going to read your chats no matter what. We're not one of those shows that says we only go to the people who are paying to be a part of the show. But hey, if you're like, you know what? Nick's hair looks really good tonight, I'm going to give them $1 for that hair. There you go. We'll make sure that we bring that up. We guarantee to show all the super chats.
We can make it crazy. Like if you want to pay extra, we'll make it as crazy as we can. But
we'll do whatever we have to. I don't care if you're going to pay.
We will shill for your YouTube dollars. And if we don't get your dollars, and if we don't get your dollars, we'll still put your chat up there.
We still love you. We don't care. We're not here for that.
But have fun.
We are here to have fun. And how do you have fun, Nick? Maybe you do it with a monthly drinking theme, as we do. We had Snoketoberfest. We had Snokevember. We had double shot of Snokes. We had Darth Sember rather. But now, Nick, what do we have now? What do we have for us?
It's a new month. I'm pouring my beer right now, and it's about to spill over into my lap. So we're going to be very careful because we're nothing if not professional on this show. We are going to keep this moving. We've kind of laid out the path for the entire year. We have most of the themes for every single month, but January is upon us. There's a beloved Star Wars character. You may know him as General Dodonna. Fun fact, General Dodonna's first name is Jan. What better way to bring in the new year with a Star Wars beer chugging game Then, and I don't think I made it a point to put it in the thing, but you'll see it in the video in a minute. It is Jan Dodanuary. So we are going to do same as we always do. We've got a beer poured. There's a little bit of a head on this one. So here's the thing. There are General Dodonna action figures available. I have not been able to sucker somebody on eBay into getting me one for the price I'm willing to pay for it. So I don't have one this week. I'm hoping to have one next Thursday. In the meantime, I do have a placeholder, and it's not even the placeholder I thought I was going to have, but my placeholder is going to be this crazy-eyed Wicket.
Very nice.
Crazy-eyed Wicket came from like a comic book something at some point. He's got these big, weird pink eyes. I don't know why.
Well, why wouldn't?
So this is your stand-in General Dodonna for Jan Dodanuary. So we're going to put him right here on the edge of our glass.
Oh, look at that.
We have an audio ready to go.
I am ready.
And I'm going to raise this toast. The easiest way to do this in this first toast of the new year is to raise the toast to the new year, to our friends, to our fans, to all of the people that hang out with us every week. As my wife coined the term several years ago, our weird space friends. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being here with us every week, in and out, through the Star Wars, through the ups, the downs, the news, all the different things. We love doing this. We don't get paid to do this as much as we make shield jokes. This is a hobby. This is a passion. This is something that we love to do because we love Star Wars. We love hanging out with y'all. Yep. So the first toast of 2025 and the first toast of Jan Dodanuary goes to all of you, our friends and family. So Wicket goes in. Pete, if you want to hit the drop, we'll make it happen.
Here we go.
Analysis of the plans provided by Princess Leia has demonstrated a weakness in the battle station. You're required to maneuver straight down this trench and skim the surface to this point.
It doesn't matter who's talking. Nick is going to finish that beer. I didn't have a beer, so I just drank some water. So, but that is always impressive. And I say impressive. It's a little scary, to be honest with you, because I can never get halfway.
We should
down.
be concerned.
So
I'm assuming my intervention is going to be scheduled anytime now.
Yeah, 1 week's episode will be an intervention. Yeah. That'll be
on a very special episode of ATGLive
this week,
like an after-school special. It's going to be Nick's intervention.
Oh man! Well, we are going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to do the news. We got a handful of stories for you tonight, and then we're going to talk a little bit about 2024, what's coming up in 25, and then we're taking your calls. We're going to put the link up. We want to hear from you. We want to get you back on the screen talking to us. So we're going to take a real quick break, and we'll be back in just a minute with more ATG Live.
What's up, my fellow Gen X Star Wars fam? My name is Chris Rhines from Broaxium. You may know me from ATG's Force Connect that I co-hosted with Pete and Nick. Now, I'm the owner and operator of Broaxium Outpost, an online shop for all your action figure and collectibles needs like Star Wars Black Series, G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Vintage Collection, Marvel Legends, Star Wars Black Series and Vintage Collection, Transformers Studio Series, Star Wars action figures, Masters of the Universe, and much, much more, including Star Wars action. Alright, I have a lot of Star Wars stuff, I'm just saying. Stop by and check out the store at www.broaxiumoutpost.com. Sign up to become a part of the Bounty Hunters Guild and stay updated on new pre-orders, sales, and exclusive Broaxium content. Find something you like? Use the promo code ATG5 for 5% off your first order. We have Star Wars figures, by the way.
Man, listen, I say it every week. I'm going to say it again. You're going to buy the shit anyway. Buy it from Chris. Buy your stuff from Broaxium Outpost.
Every time.
Man. Every single time. You're going to buy it. You are going to buy it. I mean, look, I got more stuff than I need. Nick has, and you do too. If you're watching this show.
Look, back here, and this is a double show off. We have the Star Wars. First of all, this book is heavy as hell. Star Wars Encyclopedia. You're going to see this more in the next couple of weeks. Our friend Brandon Winnerty is going to be on talking about this new book that came out. But behind this big ass book, is this the Scout Trooper helmet. If you know anything about me, you know I love West Wing. You know I drink too much whiskey. You know that this is the Black Series helmet that I waited for many, many years. And my friend Chris Ryan's Broaxium Outpost, he hooked me up. Being able to order this helmet, not only to get a helmet that I really, really wanted, but to be able to get it from somebody as awesome as Chris at a great deal, supporting an independent small business, it's the way to go. So, Broaxium Outpost, hit the thing, order stuff from Chris. You will not regret it.
Do the thing, do the stuff. Well, speaking of doing the thing and doing the stuff, there were a handful of news stories that came out since the Christmas holiday, so we're going to hit those. And so let's get to the news. Well, we are your source for all the Star Wars news of the week. This week, we lost Gold Leader. The Rey movie intrigue continues. Andor's budget might be getting out of hand. And Jake Lloyd checked in with our friend Clayton Sandell. So that's a lot to talk about. So let's get to it. Angus MacInnes, the actor who brought Gold Leader John Dutch Vander to life in Star Wars A New Hope, passed away on December 23rd. His family announced Monday in a heartfelt Facebook post that he was 75, and that they also went on to say, to all of Angus's fans around the world, with breaking hearts, we write this: Angus MacInnes died on the 23rd of December. He left us peacefully, surrounded by his family and love. Born in Windsor, Ontario, MacInnes had a prolific career spanning 5 decades, appearing in iconic films such as Witness, Judge Dredd, and Captain Phillips. Yet it was his role in George Lucas's Star Wars that cemented his place in pop culture. As Gold Leader, the rebel pilot who helped lead the assault on the Death Star, MacInnes' portrayal resonated with generations of fans. MacInnes reprised the role nearly 40 years later in Rogue One, a Star Wars story, lending his voice to some new dialogue and helping bring archival footage to life. Fans fondly remembered his contributions to the Star Wars legacy, including how the character evolved with the official call sign Dutch and the full name John Vander in the expanded canon. Known for his warmth and humor, MacInnes was a beloved figure at fan conventions. He loved meeting you, sharing your passion for the saga, his family wrote. MacInnes is survived by his wife, his children, his grandchildren, and countless fans who cherished his work. His legacy will endure the hearts of Star Wars enthusiasts and beyond. Nick, you know, it's a sad and true situation, though, that we've been losing a handful of more and more of our Star Wars actors, and it was a rough year for 24, wasn't it?
It was a rough year for 24, and I hate to see any Star Wars fan, you know, Star Wars cast member, actor, anybody that we grew up with. Gold Leader is one of those things that sticks out in my mind because you hear, you know, the trench run scene, you hear all these things. I've modeled several of my gamer tags as Red Leader. So I feel like the leader thing, you know, sticks with me a little bit, but Angus MacInnes always had the reputation of being great on set, great to just be around, even as a background player, as not one of the big people out front. I thought it was interesting, and I had to look this up earlier when I saw that we were going to talk about this story, and when I saw that he had passed. His character is named John Dutch Vander, passed away here, you know, just recently. Also in 2024, back in September, we lost Dutch from Karate Kid. Certainly a coincidence, but Dutch was the blonde-headed guy. He was on the motorbike. He was the one that when Kreese tells, you know, Johnny to take out Daniel at the end in the fight, he's the one smiling and kind of laughing in the background. And I remember as Cobra Kai came out, you know, in these more recent few years, there was a story about, you know, how that actor Chad McQueen, you know, had cancer and was, you know, going through some stuff, but they still brought him back to be a part of the legacy of the show. So it was a tough year for Dutches, but, you know, certainly for us as Star Wars fans, we hate to lose any Star Wars actor. And we have a couple more of those that we're going to talk about in our 2024 recap. But we certainly wish the best to Angus's family and those who are experiencing that loss.
Absolutely.
And speaking of other Star Wars stories, the next one is the Levy movie is next on the docket for Star Wars. Industry insider Jeff Snyder reported Thursday, which was today actually, in his newsletter that director Shawn Levy is eyeing September 2025 to start filming for his Star Wars movie. As anticipation builds, fans eagerly await official confirmation and further details from Lucasfilm on the script since completing the work on the highly anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine, which I know you've seen it, Pete. It's a fun movie. Lots of craziness in there. Lucasfilm has declined to comment on these developments, but Snyder revealed intriguing details about the project. According to his report, Daisy Ridley's Rey will appear in a supporting role. And keep in mind, this is separate from the Rey movie that we also know is on the docket, but maybe pushed back a little bit. Says in a supporting role, mentoring a new protagonist. The lead character is expected to be a teenage boy or young man, depending on casting. This marks a significant shift in the franchise's approach to Rey, who headlined the sequel trilogy and will now guide the next generation of Jedi. Levy had previously hinted that he might be tailoring the script with specific actors in mind, but this is the first solid indication of the protagonist's age and gender. The news has sparked fan speculation about who could take on the pivotal role. Of course, many of us are wondering if Lucasfilm will choose a rising star, as they did with things like New Hope in 1977, or a more established actor, somebody that we all know. If Snyder's timeline holds, Levy's film could be the next Star Wars project to actually begin production, beating out other rumored films by James Mangold and Taika Waititi. As anticipation builds, fans eagerly await official confirmation and further details from Lucasfilm about this next chapter in our galaxy far, far away. Pete,
Yeah.
right here, we know movies. At this point, we're at a when we get a movie, we'll believe it when we see it kind of phase.
Right.
How do you feel about this being the next movie to possibly hit production? And how do you feel about, the casting of a potential young person, young male? Do you want an unknown? Do you want somebody you already know? If you do want somebody you already know, do you have somebody in mind?
Not knowing anything about the story, and I think to me the thing that struck me as much or more is between this and the Charmin Obaid-Chinoy movie, which is supposed to be coming out. There's one of two things happening here, right? Either Disney is pushing all the chips in on Daisy Ridley and Rey, right? That's going to be their new Luke, and that's where they're going to circle the wagons on the upcoming major motion pictures. Or there's more trouble brewing behind the scenes, which we hate to see and we hate to even think about, but we haven't heard hide nor hair of Charmin Obaid-Chinoy's movie in months. And so who knows if is this taking it over? Is this pushing it out? Is it impacting the story that Charmin wanted to tell? So I don't know what's happening there. And it's to your point, and you're 100% right. I honestly don't want to hear anything about any Star Wars movies until they say, and here's the trailer. Because honestly, even with Star Wars Celebration coming next year, and we know that next year, in a couple months, we know that we're probably going to get more news on some of these movies. But I'm at the point where I'm just not excited. I just a couple years ago when was it 2 years ago in London when Daisy Ridley came out on stage, we all freaked out. We all were so excited, but nothing's happened. So I don't know. I'm kind of burnt on Star Wars movie news. I mean, we'll continue to cover it here. Something's going to click, but at this point, I don't know what to believe.
That's exactly my point, and that's exactly where we've both been. We've had a couple of thoughts over the last couple of years. One, Star Wars is allowed to slow down, allow us to miss seasons, take some time off, take a break. With the movies, we've taken a huge break, and we've announced a lot of movies, and we've taken away a lot of movies. I have no, built up stock and investment in anything other than when I see a trailer, I'll know that we're heading somewhere. Now, we could get a trailer and still have to wait a year, but that's fine because at this point, it's exciting to hear something's in production. We've heard about Mandalorian and Grogu. We heard that they've wrapped filming, but that movie still doesn't come out till 26. So that's another year of post and everything else.
Yeah.
So give me a movie. Honestly, I think I would, and we've said this too many times, I'd rather you just not tell me it's coming and surprise me with the trailer. Like, get it all done.
And I wonder if that's why they're not confirming or denying anything. If they're just like, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we're in a spot where we're just waiting to see something. And you know what? Let's just focus on Mando and Grogu and let them build this film in the background, I think. So,
yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Cool.
All right. What do we got next?
What do we got next? Well, we have that Andor season 2. The budget numbers have creeped out. The financial complexities of Andor, one of Disney Plus's most ambitious Star Wars series, have sparked intrigue across the internet recently. A recent Forbes report delved into UK tax filings, uncovering that the show's first season cost a staggering $248 million, just shy of the 250 million figure reported by the Hollywood Reporter. Under UK law, productions are eligible for tax rebates of up to 25% of spending within the country, provided detailed financial statements are filed. For Andor, these were submitted under the production company E&E Industries, established in October 2018, initially created to house a Star Wars feature film. The company pivoted to the Andor series, as evidenced by the spending spikes aligning with the show's production timeline. Then between November 2019 and November 2020, $60 million was spent during pre-production, followed by $188 million more during active filming. These figures don't account for a separate $7 million spent earlier, originally attributed to an abandoned Obi-Wan Kenobi film, though some speculate this was always intended for Andor. Season 2 is proving to be even more expensive. Pre-production expenses for the 12 months leading up to November 2022 totaled $85.5 million, despite the strike-related delays. And production filings for November 2023 revealed a jaw-dropping, ready for this, $292 million spent, reflecting disruptions and increased costs. To date, Andor rivals blockbuster films in production costs. For context, similar filings showed that The Force Awakens and The Rise of Skywalker each exceeded $500 million. As Andor prepares to conclude production, fans eagerly await its next season and its final price tag. It's interesting that all of a sudden Star Wars fans are experts in the budgeting and finances of films. In fact, there was some conversation by another well-known Star Wars YouTuber complaining that why did Kenobi have such a small budget compared to these shows? But I think the quality is, and it's really interesting because you look at these numbers; they're huge numbers, numbers. They're major motion picture numbers. But Andor looked and felt like a major. I mean, they did on site, on set, and things like that. Nick, do you care about how much a Star Wars production costs, and if and what does it mean to you?
As a general rule, no, I do not. I think you can. You know, I'm a tattoo guy. You're a tattoo guy. You've got some tattoos. Tattoos are one of the things in my life that I have discovered you get what you pay for. A cheap tattoo is going to look like a cheap tattoo. A good tattoo is going to cost more money. I feel like with some of these Star Wars shows, we enter into similar territory. You're right. Andor costs a lot of money, but you know, a couple of things that Andor also does, it looks like it costs money.
Right.
If you took season 1 of Andor and edited it into 1 or 2 length movies, you'd be like, hell yeah, this feels like a movie. Like everything about it, quality wise.
But I mean, it's a 12-hour movie. I mean, that's the other amazing thing.
You know, give me Godfather extended versions, you know, 1 and 2 edited together, whatever it is.
Right.
It's there and you see it on screen. Acolyte, we've heard a lot of conversations about Acolyte and the money it cost. Here's the problem. The money it cost didn't return viewers. Andor is critically acclaimed more so than Acolyte is. So you get, what do you put in? What do you get back? Like, that's how entertainment works. That's how Hollywood works. It's a tale as old as time. The money you spend is going to either show up on the screen or somebody's going to go, oh, this didn't work.
Well, and that's the thing.
One of them worked and one of them didn't.
Like, did not look like it cost as much as it did. And yeah. So yeah, I'm with you. I don't care what it costs as long as it doesn't cost so much that Disney says, you know what, we're not making any more Star Wars. That's kind of where I land.
I mean, if it costs money, and it's a tricky thing. Like we talked about this the other week, whether it was on the show or just 1-to-1. It's a tricky thing when you're doing TV shows because the money that's made is on subscribers. Right. How many of those are already subscribed? It's not going to add subscribers because, oh, there's another show. I already have If I wasn't a Star Wars person, I'd still have Disney Plus because my kids watch Disney stuff.
Yep.
So you're not drawing me in because, ooh, there's a new show. Let me go add to your subscription base.
Right.
Some people are going to quit and come back when there's a new show and they're going to pop in and out, and that's going to help them. But it's different than like, ooh, here's a movie and here's box office take, because box office take has a defined, you know, parameter of it started here, it ended here. This is what we got.
And I don't disagree with you at all on that because it does make sense that it does need to maintain or get new subscribers. The other big difference, though, is Mandalorian, for example, is selling merchandise. And so they may not be adding a ton more of subscribers, but that Mando movie is going to sell merchandise. The show has sold merch. I don't know, other than the diehard fans that we see on Twitter, the diehard fans, who may be buying a Jackie Black series. Those things are going to sit on the shelf. I hate to be that guy, but those action figures, I honestly, it's taking me a second here. I can't think of the name of the other Jedi on that show.
Soul.
There's Soul and Jackie and
the Stranger.
Yeah.
What was the douchebag guy that nobody liked? I can't even.
The guy got his head cut off. I can't. Yeah. So, that's a problem.
Somebody in the chat will have it for us.
So at the end of the day, it needs to make money, and it's going to cost a lot to do it. So let's see what happens with Andor. On the other hand, I do need to be fair. Yord.
That's it.
Freaking
Yord.
I don't know who buys Andor action figures, by the way. So that's not all there is to it, clearly. All right, let's get to that last story, Nick.
All right, we're going to get the last story. I'm going to throw a shout out to Lloyd. Angry Tasty Cakes in the chat. I'm here. Happy New Year, and I'm having shots with coworkers at a Mexican restaurant.
There you go.
In y'all's honor. This is a man who understands us. Cheers to you, my friend.
We appreciate it, my friend.
Absolutely. All right, one more story. This is a great one. Happy to report a health update on Jake Lloyd from our friend Clayton Sandell. In a heartfelt interview with journalist Clayton Sandell, Jake Lloyd, known for playing young Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, opened up about his progress after years of mental health struggles. Diagnosed with schizophrenia, Lloyd revealed he's feeling pretty good after completing an 18-month stay at a Southern California inpatient mental health facility. Clayton Sandell, who previously interviewed Lloyd's mother, Lisa, last year, followed up to hear directly from Jake himself. Now living at a rehabilitation center with more freedom, Jake says he has embraced therapy and medication, a significant shift after battling anosognosia, a condition that made him unaware of his symptoms. He said, quote, "I can now accept taking on continued treatment and honestly live with my diagnosis," end quote, Jake told Clayton, adding that fan support has been a huge source of strength. Jake reflected on his experiences with the Star Wars community, calling interactions with fans immediately therapeutic. While he has stepped back from conventions, he does continue to enjoy Star Wars media, recently diving into the Ahsoka series and classic video games like The Force Unleashed. Lisa, his mother, shared her optimism, crediting Jake's medication and determination for his improvement. She said, quote, "We're all thrilled that he's doing as well as he is," end quote. As Jake and Lisa look forward to their traditional May the 4th celebration this year with Star Wars themed t-shirts, the family remains grateful for the continued support of fans and the Star Wars community. If you want the full interview, additional insights, you can read Clayton's original report. He has a Substack. You can go find Clayton on all the social media things, subscribe to his Substack. He's a great friend of the show. Lots of things. He's done stories on Lucasfilm Sound, Skywalker Sound. I'm getting
Skywalker
the name
Sound.
wrong, but
you got it.
Skywalker Sound. Yeah.
Yep.
Great story. I love hearing this, Pete. I know you do too. We talked about the story when he talked to Jake's mom, several months ago.
Yeah.
It's so good to know that this young man who has been through a lot is doing well. And I thought there was another point that was important in the story to point out is that he did say, or she said, I don't remember who said, the issues that he has struggled with really did not come as a result of the criticisms that he got from his acting in The Phantom Menace. That's kind of a misnomer. That's something that's been out there for a lot of years. Pete, tell me your thoughts on hearing good news about Jake.
I love hearing it. And I said it last time we did the first update, and I'll say it again this time around. I think as great as this news is, I think we were so excited to see Ahmed Best come out of things and come back and get his appreciation. Same thing with Hayden Christensen. I would say be careful not to hope too hard that we see Jake Lloyd show up at a Star Wars celebration anytime soon, just because of what he's going through. That kind of experience may not be what he needs. So let's be happy that he's getting better. Let's rely on our good friend Clayton to keep telling us the good news. But I would not expect to see him anytime soon on stage somewhere talking about his experience.
Absolutely. And I saw this in a couple of the comment sections somewhere. If he ever reaches that point, which I only hope he does on his terms, on a place that's a good place for him, if he does, that's going to be a line like you've never guessed. There are going to be so many people ready to thank him, support him, tell him how much they've been thinking about him, sending their good thoughts his way. if that moment ever comes, it's going to be special for him, and I'm excited. But if it doesn't come, I hope Jake knows, and I hope that his mom knows. Those of us that are fans feel that way, regardless of whether we see him at a convention or not.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, we would love to see him. We'd love to meet him, but take care of yourself first, Jake. So, well, that wraps up for the news this week. Nick, we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to take a look back at 2024. We're going to look a little bit ahead to 2025. Part of the story there is there's not a ton that we know about there. But we want to hear from you also. So during that next segment, we're going to put the link up in the chat. If you don't want to show your face, that's fine. You don't have to use a camera, but we want to hear from you. We want to get you on screen and talking a little bit about Star Wars with you, 2024, 2020. You want to talk Skeleton Crew? We haven't touched Skeleton Crew at all tonight, but if you want to talk about that, let's get to it. But we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back in just a moment with more ATG Live. And we are back with ATG Live, your Thursday night home for all things Star Wars. Normally we're on at 9. Tonight we're on at 8 because, I don't know, it still feels a little holiday-like. Things are still a little bit screwy, but we're happy that you're here. We're happy you're joining us. Thank you so much. If you're watching us on Twitter, which looks like a number of you are, thank you so much for hanging on Twitter. If you want to dial in, you're going to have to head on over to YouTube for the link, or you'll see the link on the screen. We're going to try to put it up on the bottom, but it's a weird little ugly link, so it's not a simple link to put in, but you're welcome to join us. We would love to hear from you. We want to get your hot takes. We want to get your what you loved about 24, what you didn't love, what you want to see in 25, and what you're thinking of Skeleton Crew so far. So, Nick, I want to turn it over to you. Let's talk a little bit about 2024 and what happened in Star Wars this year.
100%. And let's start off with this. Let's start with the low note and let's take it, up a little bit. We talked in the news. We talked about the loss of Angus MacInnes, gold leader, losing him. We had a couple of other very significant Star Wars losses in 2024. We lost Carl Weathers, our friend Grief Karga, Rocky. What was his name in Happy Gilmore? Chubbs. Arrested Development. Carl Weathers has been an amazing actor in so many things. Predator for all of our lifetime. Great actor, but, also a great director. Directed episodes of Mandalorian, had that creative process, that creative side. So that was a big loss for the Star Wars community. And then also Darth Vader himself, James Earl Jones. That was another big one. So we hated to have those losses in 2024. We hate to lose any Star Wars, friend, as we've talked about. But those are some pretty significant ones. Pete, where were you? Not where were you specifically, but, those two were big ones. Did either of those hit you in a particular way?
It's interesting that, having been, you and I are unique in our fandom in that we're on the older side, right? We saw the movies in the theaters live, or in the theaters when they first hit. So it's just a matter of time. It's also kind of strange to see a number of celebrities that we were fans of pass over the years. But yeah, James Earl Jones was a tough one, just primarily because he's so iconic. He's the voice of Vader, and so that one hit particularly hard. And I'll also say Carl Weathers was rough, and not for others because two major reasons. Number one, just because he was such a great actor, and he proved to be such a great director, and he was so full of life and energy. But second, because he meant so much to people. I enjoyed him in Rocky. I enjoyed him in Mandalorian. If you go back and you watch our original, even some of the stuff from Beyond the Blast Doors Network, I was the first to say that I felt like Carl Weathers was a little overacting in those, but it worked perfectly for his character. But you look at like our friend Chris Ryans, who was devastated because he just was such a big fan. You look at our friend Paul Sun Young Lee, who has some of the best stories
The
about
stories,
working with him. And so I felt like I kind of knew him through some of those things, and it hit a little bit differently. So
yeah, I agree completely. I think that was a true testament to who the actor was, who he was as a person. And like you said, especially Paul's stories, talking about the first time he sat down at the food tent to eat, and, he's like, sat by him. He's like, yeah, as long as you don't expect a conversation. And then but then Carl shows up and he gets curious, and who are you? Who are your people? All those things. And it really was a big loss. And there was a lot that, was still ahead of him as far as that goes. Those are the losses. Those were our, kind of lower notes from 2024, but there was still a good amount of Star Wars that came out in 2024. We'll start with the easy stuff. Television. We had 3 things. We had Tales of the Empire, the little animated anthology series that goes along with what was Tales of the Jedi, the first one. Pete, I'm going to be perfectly honest. I didn't watch all of Tales of the Empire.
That's okay, actually, because I watched, I think I watched them all. I did watch them all, but here's the thing with those. It's funny. There's certain Star Wars things that I don't like. They feel like very few and far between, but there are things that I'm like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And that for some reason was one of them. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that was me. I did watch, I think, all of Tales of the Jedi. Yeah. As far as I know, because I know we get to the point where Ahsoka's learning to be stunned, which shows up in Clone Wars season 7, and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't watch all of Tales of the Empire. What I did watch was I watched all of the Acolyte, which was a delightful series. It was enjoyable. It was not without its challenges, bumps. For me personally, I think most of it was around pacing. It was around, some of the storytelling decisions, not the story itself. I know you felt the same way. That was kind of our common, conversation was, honestly, I think Acolyte could have been a really good 2 to 2.5 hour movie.
I agree. And the thing that makes Acolyte such an interesting conversation, and again, something we could do a full hour on. I saw a tweet today that I against my better judgment, I responded to. In fact, I'm going to pull a little. I won't show it on screen here because I probably won't be able to do that. But I do want to look at what it said exactly, because I took issue with it. And I think the problem is it's becoming a pervasive kind of commentary. And the comment, here it is. Look at that. I'm getting faster and faster to Twitter. They said, can't believe the fandom menace. It was a person named Colby. And they said, I can't believe that the fandom menace got away with getting this show canceled. This franchise is so fast paced that we almost never get slower emotional scenes. We get a lot of emotional blah, 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 not to blah, 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 what they're saying. But the point being, my response was the fandom menace did not get the show canceled. Viewership was awful, and there's no way around that. And it was too expensive a show. We just talked about what that impact was. And I think I think for better or worse, it was a key learning moment for Star Wars and how they responded to the fans or not responded to the fans. And the truth of the matter is, it wasn't the trolls that got it canceled. It wasn't the racists and the bigots and just the shitty people who had things to say about it. The show just didn't work. I mean, you and I reference our dads all the time as sort of the common Star Wars fans, the normies. My dad said he just couldn't get into any of the characters. And I think that's really the problem. We enjoyed it from a lore level. I mean, I can't speak for specifically what you're saying, but I really enjoyed the lore. I enjoyed what it was trying to do. I felt like it was choppy. I felt like all kinds of other issues, but for whatever reason, it just didn't catch with the average fan. It doesn't matter what the YouTube grifter said. I mean, it may have influenced a percentage of the fans, but for the most part, that's not what killed the Acolyte.
No, not at all. It was a business decision at the end of the day. Plain and simple, it was a business decision. If it had been gangbusters, if people had been losing their mind talking about how good it was, they would have said, you know what, let's make some more because people are coming to it. But that wasn't what happened. It wasn't a bad, it just wasn't good enough. Maybe that's how we look at it. And KG has a great point. Where'd my cursor go? KG said, I like Khmer and it was enjoyable, but it was still lacking. There wasn't a return on investment. And that's how Disney makes its decisions. As hard as that is, as not fun as that is.
Yep.
That's where the answers come from. That's where it's, where it lies. The other thing TV wise that we got in this year is still going on, Skeleton Crew.
Yep.
Skeleton Crew has been, for me personally, a delight, a breath of fresh air, something that I look forward to every week. I will say that this week was probably, if I'm ranking the episodes that have come out so far, it was the bottom of my list. But it is a fun show. It feels very Star Wars. It doesn't feel wrapped up in being too serious with lore, and it's just fun Star Wars, which is what we want Star Wars at the end of the day to be.
I think that's the biggest challenge for it. It's funny, there's a handful of, I've mentioned them before, but there's a handful of podcasts that I listen to, and I like their after shows and things like that. I honestly feel like people are really looking too hard for the connections, and I don't want people to be disappointed. I love what that show is all about. It's hard for me to rank this particular episode because I literally watched it sitting in the corner at a New Year's Eve party I was at. There was a lull in the party. So I was just sitting there on my phone, just watching it. So I have to rewatch it, but there were so many great things that came out of that episode. I think it's coming out as low on people's lists because it was a little bit more of an intimate episode, but I mean, exposing what was underneath the outer hull of the Onyx Cinder. Holy cow. And just I don't know. I mean, we could maybe we'll get into it with some of the callers later, but overall the episode, I think there was a lot more going on to it, but I definitely agree it was not action packed. It was not it's not jump up and down, but
it's a catch. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I was going to change topic, but go ahead.
I was going to say it's a catch-22 because exactly, and KG just said it, KB as well. It's a show. It's an episode where I go, it wasn't that action-packed. It might be my lowest ranked. It doesn't mean I didn't like it. It just means if I'm going to put them in order. But at the same time, like even watching, and I'm sure you saw it too, StarWars.com put out the little clip of the Phil Tippett Studios for the Crab Monster. And like, there's an R2D2 on there, and there's a 3PO, and there's a K2SO, like all the, the things that make up this amalgamation. Also stop motion animation. I love Phil Tippett. I can't wait for the day that we get to talk to him on and around the galaxy. But when you dig down the stuff with KB and, their, limitations and disabilities and the challenges that they face, the way Wim, works with her and helps her, and just every bit of it, like it is a phenomenal episode, and there's not been a bad one of this show. So when I say that coming out of the gate, I go, it wasn't action packed, but maybe that's just the fact that the last few have been like wide open and piratey and whatever. But then you also wrap up what I call a slower episode with the Onyx Cinder shedding its outer skin to be like, surprise, I'm a cool ass spaceship.
Well, this is like the way I looked at this particular episode was, if it's a 2.5 hour movie, this is about an hour and 40 minutes into it. And this is where you get that sort of lull where the characters can
break.
Well, it's there. And it's also where the characters confirm who they are and what they are as they go into that last bit. I think these last two episodes, honestly,
we've got 2 left.
I think they're going to be sort of a part 1 and 2 of a big giant conclusion.
So do you think we'll get and this is of course, more than anything, this was always a Game of Thrones thing. Do we get a penultimate episode where like a bunch of crazy shit happens?
Well, all the good stuff happens.
We slow down at the end, or do we go wide open for 2 in a row? How do you think it lands?
That's a great question. I think it's going to be. I think I could be wrong, but I think it's the same director for both episodes. So I think it's going to feel like a part 1 and part 2. There'll probably be a cliffhanger at the end of this one, and then I think it'll end strong. So, yep.
Okay. I am dropping that link in the chat. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's one other thing that came out this year, and that is some of the Young Jedi Adventures. I think there was another part of a
More
season.
seasons of Young Jedi Adventures.
So again, I haven't watched all of them. I've truly, honestly, only watched the ones that Greg is a part of.
That's correct.
So, Greg Iwinski, friend of the show, actually now personal friend Nick has been known to just text him with questions, and comments, and Greg has been known to. It's so funny. Every now and then, Nick will be like, "Yeah, Greg just said this about whatever came on," and it's very funny. But that's a great show that's a great avenue to let more and more people into the Star Wars universe. So,
and that's what it's about. So speaking of letting people into the Star Wars universe, if there was a wall that would be put up to attempt to keep you and I out of the Star Wars universe, it would revolve around things printed on pieces of paper. There were a bunch of books and comics that came out this year. I am by no means going to be able to give us any kind of exhaustive list, and I kind of want to run through these and hit some highlights. There was a Mace Windu book that came out this year for those of you that love Mace Windu. I'm going to come back to a couple of these. There was the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. I had good things about that. The Living Force, the John Jackson Miller book. There was a manga compilation for Visions. We know that there's a Visions season 3 that I believe has been announced. We're excited to hear more about that. Probably at Celebration in Japan. Seems like an appropriate place to hear more about that. Sure. There's a bunch of High Republic books. I am notoriously the worst High Republic fan, maybe on the face of the earth.
I don't know. You're co-host, but we're like the two. It's so funny. We have really good friends who work in publishing. We're friends with with people who promote it. I just can't do it, and it's not.
Here's what I like to think, Pete.
Yeah,
it's not that we're bad Star Wars fans. It's that we're really good parents, and we're spending the free time we have with our kids, with our spouses. I just don't have time to read a book because I'm going to ballet practice and I'm going to whatever band, the next thing is.
Let's face it. If you're sitting at band practice,
shut up, Pete. You're ruining it for me. Exactly. You're ruining it for me. A couple of other things. Speaking of comic books, we did have some trade paperbacks that came out. The Dark Droid series, which I did not read, but I was intrigued by because they had some really cool covers.
This is the state of comics for the ATGLive show. I was intrigued by it.
It looked cool
because it looked cool. I'm the same way with the whole Jakku series that's happening right now.
There were some Legends books re-releases.
Yeah.
I've got 3 of those because I did buy the Legends re-release of the Thrawn trilogy when they put those out. They happened to be at my local Target. There was a Lego visual dictionary for people like Pete Fletcher who are all about some Lego.
How did I miss that?
But I want to jump back to a couple of these. We have the Return of the Jedi visual dictionary, which I don't know where mine has gone at the moment. We had Clayton on a few months ago to talk about when that book came out. There it is. Amazing. Well played. That's a great book. So much cool stuff about Return of the Jedi. It has all the little inserts and the tickets and the letters and the thing that, what's Wicket's real name? Warwick Davis that he wrote, the letter he wrote to George Lucas about loving Star Wars, wanting to be in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So many cool things, inserts that go into that. Similarly, behind me, as I mentioned before, we have the Star Wars Encyclopedia that just recently came out. In the next couple of weeks, our good friend Brandon Winerdy, who was one of the writers on that, is going to be with us to talk about that process and what that book meant. There was also the Star Wars Bestiary book, Pete. And if I'm not mistaken, you talked about, you got that and Jack dug into, the critters and the beasts and all that kind of stuff. That's
a really cool one. And another really cool one that came out, which probably on your list, I'm jumping your list here, is the Clone Trooper book. What's that one called? Can't remember what that's called, but it's similar to the Return of the Jedi book in that there's like flaps and different things that you can download and you can in the real world or read,
download it into your eyeballs and your brain.
Yes, right. So yeah, we have all that, but yeah, that book is really cool, and that dictionary behind you, man, that's the it's good. It's good. So
it's good stuff. Well, there's a couple more things from 2024 I want to hit, and then it looks like we do have a caller in the background. I can't wait to talk to this young gentleman who we have not seen in a minute. The other thing that we got in Star Wars this last year was some video games. I know,
Yes.
Pete, some of this was first of all, we got Star Wars Hunters. Star Wars Hunters has been promised for I don't know how long.
It was at Star Wars Celebration. I remember Jack playing it.
Yes, there were playable
The
demos
demos,
at
yeah.
Celebration in Anaheim, which was in
Yep.
2022.
Yeah.
And it still didn't come out, and it came out in 2024. It's a game on iOS. It's free. It's got pay to play and some of those other kind of things. It's fun. It's a fun run around, shoot 'em up mobile game.
Yeah.
But it literally feels like it has been announced and promised for like 5 years now. So that one came out. Jedi Survivor just in the last couple of months did drop on PlayStation 4, which for people like me who don't have a PlayStation 5 or the newer Xbox, it meant that game was now available for the Luddites and the old people who aren't good at video games. But also this year brought Star Wars Outlaws, and I have not had the opportunity to play Outlaws. I have, of course, seen footage. Pete, I know you have played for a little bit. You got a little bit stymied and frustrated with some of the sneak around.
I didn't love it at first, but now I love it. And I'm well. So here's the weird thing: I loved it for a couple weeks, and now I'm kind of like, maybe I'll just watch the cutscenes. But it's a really cool game, very cool game.
So there has been a plethora of fun things that have come out in Star Wars in 2024. 2025, it's kind of wide open. We know that we're going to get Andor season 2, coming up at some point. Beyond that, it's kind of wide open. There's not a lot else on our radar. But it has been a good year for Star Wars. Any year we get anything new in Star Wars is a good year. That's going to be my default position. Doesn't mean I have to love it, but we're in something that growing up, I didn't know if I'd ever get any more of. And now I get it every year and have for going on 10 plus years. So it's hard to come up with a way to be mad at that. People do, don't get me wrong. And they make money on the internet about it, but
sure,
that's not my vibe. My vibe is, let's just go with it and have some fun.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, and there's 2025, somebody said, and I don't know if they're still with us tonight. If you're still here, we haven't seen you before. We're very happy to welcome you. Norberto said Star Wars needs to take a break for at least a decade and then people will care again. I don't think he's terribly off base on that, and we can definitely talk about that. But the reality is Star Wars in 2025 is going to be a bit quiet. And that's actually okay. The only things we know for sure are Visions Volume 3 and the end of Skeleton Crew, and of course Andor season 2. So, which is actually really good. There's 100 million books coming out, and I don't mean to discount them, but there's a lot of that coming. But as far as action on television, that there's not a lot coming. So, but we want to hear from you, Nick. After our first call here live, I'm going to see if I can make it so that we can actually hear a call. Somebody just left a voicemail.
Sweet.
We'll see if I can make that work from a technical standpoint, but we have our first call of the night. So let me play the intro and we'll bring him in.
Patch him through.
Hi, I'm holding for General Hux.
This is Hux.
Okay, I'll hold.
Hello?
Hello? Yep, I'm still here.
Look who it
There he
is.
is.
Zillow Nation. What's up, man?
I'm doing very well. I'm here for questions because I don't have a thought out conspiracy this time, so I really don't have anything to go off.
Is there a Zillow beast somewhere underneath the?
No. I was like thinking about Shock T clones, but I already talked about that.
Absolutely. Well, it's always good to see you. What has been? I'll just throw a question at you. Over the course of 2024, we have gotten a bunch of Star Wars stuff. You've probably been way more into the books and the comics than Pete and I have. We've gotten the shows, we've gotten the games. What have been a couple of your favorites over the course of this last year?
Well, there's been some standout episodes of Skeleton Crew, like like the one they dropped right before the new year. Really like the first episode. I think the first episode is one of the best jumping on points for an audience that like knows nothing. Like you really don't have to be all the technical nerds like I know this, know that. You can just go in. You just like you follow some kids. It's Goonies, whatever.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah, you don't need to know what Kiadi Mundi's birthday was. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, like I do read quite a bit of comics, in comics in general, but like I've fallen off on like trying to catch up what's going on now. I used to be fairly caught up with, like a decade ago. But I guess I had to watch some videos from Chris Ryan's and them, and maybe they can give me a quick.
Chris Ryan does those the quick shots. If you want to know what's happening in all those cool looking comic books that Nick and I think look nice but don't actually read.
He's like, oh, pretty pictures.
Yeah,
I won't touch them though.
It's like Cliff's Notes for comic books. It's built for people like me.
Yeah.
What about the video games, Eric? Did you play Outlaws this year?
I haven't had a console in about a decade, so more than that. So I really don't do much gaming.
Fair enough.
Every once in a while, someone have a console, I'll play it for a bit, but I don't own it.
Totally
but
fair.
I did watch the full playthrough on YouTube of Outlaws, and I was like, okay, this is pretty good. Like the story didn't hit as much as like one of the Jedi games. But I still like a lot of the people that we were introduced to. I think Kay is a character that easily come into other media because the actress looks exactly like the character. You don't need to worry about regaling them in a bunch of things that will be difficult to render. Like it's just regular woman. So I think it'll be a good idea to throw her into something. If it's a situation where this is just going to be a standalone game, they're not going to make any sequels. Because
I don't think the response is strong enough for a sequel for this game.
It's like very clear. Like it's a perfect marriage when you have a character people like, and the person playing the character really loves Star Wars. They're willing to come in because there's some actors that just kill me off.
Harrison Ford.
Exactly. Harrison Ford is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to that mentality.
Exactly. So we didn't talk to you in the interim with Acolyte because we didn't take calls during that time. We got a couple seconds left. What was your take on Acolyte? I'm very curious as somebody who comes from
I think that a lot of the characters' motivations was not made clear to the audience.
Yeah.
It felt very wishy-washy with the way they was going into these characters. So overall, I thought it was all right. I keep saying on my channel that Torben was brought with so much grief, he lost his hairline.
Right. Yeah.
Stressed it right out of him.
Lost his vision and his hairline. So
that's right.
So unfortunately, no second season, but like I can understand why. Like there wasn't that much hype for it as like a Mandalorian was.
Right.
And from the first episode, meeting new characters, I'm like, I understand this. I get it. I love this. Yep. The first episode, I'm like, oh, I can see what they're doing. I can see it. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
Cool.
Makes sense.
Well, Eric, it's so great to see you again, and the calls are back, man. So I expect we'll probably see you next week. Hopefully, we'll see you next week.
It's like I just gotta check to see if that StreamYard link is at the bottom, and whether or not I'm going to be keeping up the streak or not.
Yeah, well, we'll keep it. We'll look for you. Well, hopefully, you'll be there, and also check out the Honest to Claude podcast. And have you? Who's your most recent guest?
Most recent guest was M, former co-host of Pink Milk. I'm gonna have a guy named Cujo Fett, who has a small channel, and but he seems like a cool guy.
Awesome,
very cool. Look forward to checking that out.
All right, man. We'll see you again soon.
Good to see you, my friend. Happy New Year.
My smoke.
That was cool. We haven't seen him in forever in a Loft Cat's age. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's I don't know how long they live or not.
That's the thing or not. That's right.
All right, Nick, I'm going to try something here. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to try to play this voicemail that we just got. Star Raptor hooked me up here, or said he sent a message. So I went and I saw that he did in fact send a message. Doesn't matter that you can't see that down there. That's fine. That's the voicemail thing. And let's wait. Oh, you know, I'm going to make sure that I got the audio. Hold on. I'm going to remove this, and then just make sure that I have. Oh yes, it's so exciting here. Share screen, share audio. All right, here we go. So let's do this. Here we go. Are you hearing it?
I am not hearing it. No.
All right, hold on a second. Let me try one more time. I told you it wasn't going to be easy. All right, hang on. One more second.
We got to bypass the primary compressor.
That's right. I bypassed the compressor. Okay, here we go. Let's add it to the stage now. Let's see if this works. Tell me, give me a thumbs up if you're hearing it. Here we go.
Hello, across the galaxy. This is Chris, aka Star Raptor. Happy New Year to you guys. It's going to be an exciting year for Star Wars. Something I'm looking most forward to would be Star Wars Celebration Japan. It's my opportunity to go out to the Far East. Never been out to there, especially Japan. Very much looking forward to it. The birthplace of a lot of big pop culture things, a lot of inspiration for George Lucas with like Kurosawa and a lot of that, you know, traditional Eastern philosophy on top of manga and video games and everything else. So really looking forward to it. Been to the prior celebrations of the past in Europe as well as Chicago and California. And what I will say is that being a part of that community, when you're in person with all the fans, you know, we have a lot of disagreements online, but when you're in celebration, all that goes out the window and you really feel like you are part of a larger community. It's really cool to share any excitement with everybody there for the same thing. You can talk to anybody around you and you'll be right at home, you know, friendly conversations. Hey, I love Star Wars. Who's your favorite character? What's your favorite ship? You're all sharing the love of this thing that we've all grown up with. Besides Celebration, stick with the books. I will say The High Republic coming to a conclusion. I think it started at the end of or the beginning of 2021, I think it was. Long road, a lot of good stuff, especially a whole new era of Star Wars coming to an end. It's going to be very interesting to see who lives and who dies and what the resolution with the Nile is going to be. But yeah, those are the two biggest things I'm looking forward to, on top of course, Andor Season 2. Going to be absolutely fantastic to see how that thing wraps up. So thank you for leaving this message on your show. And I'm looking forward to see what the future has in store for maybe some announcements we haven't even heard before. But thank you so much, guys, and may the force be with you always.
Cool. Well, two things. It worked. That's pretty cool. So if you want to leave a voicemail during the show, we now know that you can do that and we can play it. How amazing is that? Secondly, Star Raptor, you know, it's funny. I think it's really interesting to see, you know, he's one of those guys that I've spoken to online often on Rand. If I'm correct, I think we're like within a 50-mile radius of each other. And there's been a couple of times where we're like, we should get together because I think he plays some of the games, the board games and things like that. It's okay. He says, my bad. I didn't realize I could call in stream live. That's fine. We got you that way. We'll get you next time. You can call in next week. We're going to do this every single week now. We're going to bringing back the calls, and hopefully you'll join us. I love the comment though about Star Wars Celebration. Nick, you and I have said this before. That is one of the great things. That's one of the things about Star Wars Celebration. It's like Twitter doesn't exist. It's like YouTube doesn't exist. It's like you're all wearing your Star Wars shit and you're hanging out and you're getting to know each other, and it's just pure Star Wars love. You're muted, Nick, I think. Yes, you are.
I am muted because I'm still an amateur at this, apparently. But you're right. And I have been to 2 celebrations, which is by no means an exhaustive list. But the 2 celebrations I've been to, one for literally a day, the other for all of the days. It is exactly, there's not one person there that was like, you know what I hate about this shit? You know what makes me mad?
You know what? Exactly.
Star Wars, I do too. Let's be best friends. It's like when you're a kid in the pool and you eat like a stranger and you're like, you like swimming? Me too. We're the best friends I've ever been. It's so fun. Yep. It's so wonderful. It's so great because And this is what I've said before, and of course I've had to explain it to many people in my life who don't understand this obsession that I have with Star Wars. You can go to San Diego Comic-Con, you can go to Dragon Con, which I've been to the last several years. And there's if there's a fandom that exists, if there is something that someone likes, it's at San Diego Comic-Con, it's at Dragon Con, it's at New York Comic-Con. Star Wars Celebration is just Star Wars. Now you're going to get crossovers like, an office version of R2D2, or somebody has very creative, great ideas, but it's all Star Wars. Which makes it unique and makes it that single vision thing of like, holy crap, we all love this one thing and we all get to hang out together. And it is actually the best. I am not going to Japan. It didn't work. It's not going to be something that's in my future. I'm excited for the next stateside celebration. I'm very hopeful that it's going to be in Orlando, which is very convenient for me. But Celebration is the best. So to Star Raptor, I'm so excited for you, for my other friends that are going to get to go and be there. I can't wait to see what you're going to do, what reports and stories are going to come out. We'll probably cover it in some way. We did that with London, and we did the best we could, and Japan's even farther away. So we'll figure that out too, because time zones are crazy.
Well, the problem with London this was my biggest problem with London, was the only guest we got was Carson Teva. And that, Paul Sun Young Lee came by on the show and talked about Celebration. It was like, come on,
whatever.
No, there's been a lot. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to say it now. We're definitely going to do some sort of coverage. We don't know what it'll be. But that's great. So listen, if you guys want to join us by dialing in next week, you can absolutely do that. We will be live again next Thursday. It'll be at 9:00. I think we might have a guest next week, but I'm not sure. Either way, we're going to make it so that the last half of the show from this day forward is back to once again making you part of the show. You are why we're here. We're hanging out with all of you. We love hanging out with you. If you're on Twitter, you can probably see the link. Just see here. Yeah, we'll make sure that you can get to it. Maybe next week, Nick, here's what I'll do. Maybe I can make it so there's some sort of a QR code or something so people can just do it that way.
Perfect.
But we want to hear from you. We want you on, or you can leave a voicemail. We do have the voicemail number there at the top of the screen.
Either one. We just want to hear from you.
We want your voice. We want to hear what you're thinking about Star Wars. 2 weeks left of Skeleton Crew. We may bring back the Skeleton Crew review show at some point. Why don't we just call it Skeleton Crew review? Everybody's got these fancy fucking names. And I just said Skeleton
right
Crew
there,
review.
For us.
Remember the New Zoo review when you were little? We did the Skeleton Crew review. Made it simple. Made it simple. Not too clear. Although I did need to say Beyond the Barrier. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Playing Rivals. Hey, dude, you got to be playing Rivals. I heard that's great. I'm probably going to download it tonight. Nick, this has been great looking back. There's a lot to look forward to. We're going to keep the fun happening. Again, this is your show, everybody. ATG Live. The reason we're live is because we want you to be a part of it, and we want to hear from you and make you part of the show with us. We definitely want to hear more from you as far as what you like about the show, what you don't like, what you want to see changed. Text us, tweet us. You can leave us a voicemail. You can even tell us,
hey,
please don't play this online.
I want to respond to something in case we lose it. Crazy Joe's Concession Stand just said, I reached out to you a couple times on Blue Sky and via email. I'd love to have you as guests on my Monday night live stream sometime. I know Pete and I, we both kind of check those. Pete, I don't recognize this. I don't remember seeing this. So send us something else. What is what's the email address, Pete? Hang on.
We have
streaming Star Wars 77 at gmail.com. Crazy Joe, if you're still here.
Do you have access to that, Nick?
I do have access to that. Send us an email at streaming Star Wars 77 at gmail.com. We would love to check that out and see about talking to you. But that was a surprise. I didn't know we had gotten a message.
Yeah,
so
I think we did. We went back and forth on one chat somewhere. Might have been on Blue Sky, but I can't recall. But yes, awesome, man. We would love to do that. And yeah, I mean, here's another thing. I'll throw it out there. I don't know. For some reason, the show got taken off. I think it was because of copyright issues. But I went online. I did a live show with one of the people that totally disagreed with me. It was a show called Star Wars Only. The guy is honestly one of those guys that I have gone head to head on Twitter. We disagreed about things, but we talked for an hour about Star Wars and we found that middle ground. I still didn't agree with him. He still didn't agree with me, but that was okay. So we would love to talk Star Wars with anybody, and you are welcome to call us if you're watching this on Twitter and you want to be a part of this. And you disagree with our takes. If you think that Kathleen Kennedy's ruining Star Wars, if you I don't know, you want to call us shills, feel free. That's fine. We want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. But this show again is all about the people who love to hang out and talk Star Wars. We don't have to agree. Nick and I don't always agree, but that's it. I could ramble on about this for days, Nick, but I think that's going to do it for us tonight.
Yep.
I don't know who specifically our guest is next week, but I think we got somebody coming up. I know we have Brandon coming up soon. I don't think it's next week. But hey, Chaco, I see you out there. You want to join us next week? Give me a DM. Let's talk. Let's get you on the show. But Nick, as we say every single week, may the Force be with you.
Always.
Just one more round, friend, then homeward bound, friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. Yes, it's a crime, friend. But you know time, friend. Time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye.